Hello and welcome to a new video. Today I will talk about something many get wrong in an economical sense, and this is how prices get created. There are different theories of prices, how they get created. One theory says there's a natural price of products, which is wrong. Then there's the second theory, for example, by Marx, who said prices get determined by the amount of labor needed for the product. So the more labor is needed for the product, the higher the price will be. The less labor is needed for the product, the less the price will be. However, this is very wrong, and we can see that already out of today's perspective because some products are very expensive with less labor needed, and some are very cheap with much labor needed. For example, if you buy a luxury Gucci cap, this cap is way more expensive than just a very normal cap. Even if you buy 3 normal caps, they are very much cheaper than one Gucci cap. So even though you get 3 caps instead of one, you still pay less. So the amount of labor here, that can't be really true. But how is a price created in reality? To say it in the words of Ludwig von Mises, prices are not determined, they emerge. There is no law of value that tells you how much a product is worth. No, it is the subjective exchanges that basically tell you how much a product is worth to you. To everyone, it is different in the end. For this, we first need to understand that there are subjective preferences. One person values chocolate higher than bread, another person values, for example, a PlayStation 5 over an Xbox One. Everyone has preferences, and naturally, I am willing to pay for my highest preference the highest price. My lowest preference, I'm only willing to pay the lowest price because I don't really need it, while I really need the highest preference because it is the most important to me. So, this is the first very important thing to understand. Prices are determined also by preferences. Karl Menger said that prices are made by the minds of men, which is very true, since prices are subjective and everyone is willing to pay a different amount of sum for a different product. The next thing you need to understand is that if I buy a product, the seller of the product prefers the thing I give the seller more than the product itself. For example, if I buy the product for £20, the seller prefers the £20 to the product. Exchange, buying products and selling products, is always voluntary. And people only go into that voluntary exchange if both sides think they will profit from it. No one is going into a business in order to sell something for a price they think is very horrible and they would not profit from it. You can say, of course, if they are forced to sell it, then they still think they will profit from it because there's a reason why they need the money. And without the money, they would maybe not survive. So they need to sell the product for a price that is lower than they actually want to sell it. But still they profit from it because they have money instead of the product, which they can use to survive. So this is really the great thing about our fiat currencies we have, because they are not products per se. Well, they are products, but you can use them everywhere. You can use them to buy many products. Nowadays, it is not so easy. If you go, for example, into a supermarket and want to pay with a cow and want to buy stuff paying with the cow, this is not really possible. But you can before maybe sell the cow and get money for it, and now go with the money into the supermarket, buy the things you want there, and go into another store and buy the things there. So this fiat currency, this money we have nowadays, is very practical, and people tend to prefer it over products because with the money they can buy everywhere or almost everywhere, while with the product they can't pay in many places. To keep it simple, we are talking about products now only. For example, if I'm a baker, I'm producing bread. Now, I as a baker bake bread and I have bread. But for example, I really want to eat an apple. And there's a farmer in the area who really wants to eat bread, but he only has apples. So the farmer comes into my bakery and basically offers me 3 apples for 1 bread. Now, if I would not at all want to eat apples now, I would decline the offer because I don't need apples. But because I really want to eat these apples, I accept the offer and accept 3 apples for 1 bread. If apples would be not that important for me, but why not? Maybe I would only accept when he offers me 5 apples. Because I could give them away, or I could sell them again, etc. However, money makes it easier. Because with money, obviously, I can buy everything. So if the farmer comes and wants to buy my bread, I sell it to him with money because I can buy everything I want with money. All my preferences, all my subjective needs, I can buy with money. So this is very important here to understand. An exchange only happens if both sides think they profit from it. It never ever happens. It never ever happens when both sides think they don't get anything for it, but it's the fair price. Because we basically had now that 3 apples are the price for 1 bread. This can change any second though. Now having apples and don't need the apples anymore, if a second guy comes in and wants to have a bread for 3 apples, I probably say no, because I don't need any more apples. If the person offers me no money, I still take it. Or if the person offers me something different I want, then I also take it. So this is very important to know that both parties in an exchange think they profit, because otherwise they would not do the exchange. There's never an exchange happening where both parties think they pay the neutral price and they don't profit from it. They always think they profit. So speaking now in the realm of money, we basically have it now that some buyers are willing to pay more and some are willing to pay less for the same loaf of bread, while some sellers are ready to offer the loaf of bread for more and some for less. We have the marginal buyer and the marginal seller. What is this? Well, the marginal buyer is basically the person that is willing to pay the highest price for the product, the last price. And the marginal seller is the person that is willing to sell the loaf of bread for the lowest price. In other words correctly said, the marginal buyer is the last buyer willing to pay the price, while the marginal seller is the last one still to accept the price. So overall, prices are made by individuals and are created by what individuals are ready to pay. You can't calculate at which price individuals buy. You can't calculate which price is the best one where you sell the most. It is impossible to calculate because it's all about human action. What humans do when humans buy, no one can know in front. You can only find it out through testing. Now, obviously, there are people, for example, that say, yeah, but you can look at the concurrents. You can say, oh, they sell the product for this price and they have that many buyers. That is possible if you look at it, but I can tell you, if you basically sell the product for exactly the same price, you won't have exact the same amount of buyers. At least in theory, it's not really possible, because you cannot say that past actions are resulting in the future. You cannot look in the past and say, oh, when they offered that product to this price, they had that many buyers. You cannot say that you will have the exact amount of buyers because you sell it for that price. However, you can take it as an indicator. This is very much possible. You can look at it and say, if they sell it for that price and have that many customers, I maybe have around the same customers if I offer it for the same price. However, it is not guaranteed. You should always know that the future is never guaranteed, and you can never know it. So every theory of calculating a price is wrong. You cannot. It's just impossible. You can't calculate how much costs you had for the product, then the taxes, how expensive this is for you, and in the end you can create a price at which you will profit from the product, which you have to take from the customer at least to make a profit. You can do that. But this is not guaranteed the right price. It is not guaranteed that customers buy from you for that price. There are many, many, many things you have to take care of. And in the end, you can never be sure, because whether you sell a product or not is a question to the individual. Subjective needs, etc. And these change basically every second over the whole world. So you can never be sure. And prices are always determined by the individual and by subjective preferences. For example, if people just don't want to buy, let's say, again, the bread for that and that price. If no one buys it anymore for that price, the seller of the bread has to basically offer it cheaper. And if still no one buys it, they have to offer it again cheaper. If people then buy it, he will stay at that price. He found the price where people buy the bread. Now, of course, there could be a critical thing for the seller that he says, oh, damn, now I have to offer it for a price where I don't make any profit anymore. Then the seller has the problem that they probably go bankrupted, because there's something bad in their business model that makes their prices need to be higher than it needs to be. However, there are obviously ways how to get around that. If we, for example, look again at luxury brands, they are very expensive, but people are willing to pay way more for them than for normal brands. Why is that? Because they have a good marketing, they have a good name, etc., and you can build these things. So no one could calculate the price of a Gucci cap with any kind of formula. When Gucci first came in, and they said, for example, this cap costs now 10 times the one of a normal cap, they did not calculate that. They just earned that, for example. So prices are really what subjectives or individuals are willing to pay, and this is never, never, never to be calculated which price is the ideal price. You can only find it out, and even that changes always. I hope you could learn something in this video. I hope you liked it. I hope you have a great week. If you have any questions or any advices, write it down in the comments. And I'll see you soon. Bye bye.